Berserk is my favorite manga of all the time. It has my favorite protagonist and then my favorite antagonist in the history of the manga. And I simply love the art style, the world building, and simply the story that Miura created. And I wanted to make more videos about it, so I'm now starting with ranking my top 5 Berserk arcs, starting with number 5, and that is Black Swordsman arc. Many people, myself included, agree that this is the great introduction to the series. It really is like shows you the tone that Miura is going for. Like in the first 100 pages, you see the baby impaled on a stick, so you really know what to expect. Like action is great, and art style is very good, but like the rest of this arc, it's simply inferior when compared to what comes next. And that's it about Black Swordsman arc. I feel that my biggest problem with it is actually in the character of Guts, who at this point of the story, isn't really interesting at all. He looks like your stereotypical edgy dude with a sword, and I really don't like that. But I must say, even like the ending, like the last 200 pages of this arc, they improved significantly. Like the Count is much more interesting villain than the Cobra guy, and you see the God Hand, and you start to see that there is more to God, especially in that last scene with him crying when leaving the castle. Like it is the beginning Berserk, and I feel worthy one. So we are now at number 4, and that is Fantasia arc. And there is many criticism about Fantasia arc, but I feel it is a very good arc. But I can see most of the complaints, and my biggest complaint, honestly, is the characters in this arc. That Miura at this point really just had too many characters that people really didn't care for. For example, Farnese's brother, or sadly Pak at this point, or for example Isma, this mermaid girl. The thing about them, they're just there for some not so good comedy, or for example when Guts does something crazy, they're like, wow, he's so cool. And I'm really angry that that happened, and they really kinda like brought a bit shonen feel to the Berserk that I really don't like. And now that I talked about it, like, yes, I don't like how Guts is just like 100 levels beyond his group at this point, because for example in a Conviction arc, Serpico was a force to be reckoned with, but at this point he's just like some guy in the background that does something, and everything, all the spotlights is on Guts. Like, I think that Guts' development in Fantasia is still like top notch, great stuff, but I don't like that so many other characters are in his shadow, and I hope that this will change with like appearance of the Casca, because Casca is one of the fan favorite characters, and I would really like to see more of her, and I feel that everybody would like to see more of Casca now that her mind is restored. About the art style of Fantasia arc, yeah, it gets kinda like more cute looking and everything, but I feel that Miura is just switching because now they're in this like fairy tale-y, like fairyland, and I think he'll switch to his old style when they go back to the Griffith's world. And but still, like for example, Fight Against the Sea God, it's still a great action. Like there's still great scenes, and even like more detailed than ever before. I feel that Berserk is now, and yeah, that's all I have to say at this point about the Fantasia. In number 3, and this was extremely hard. Like number 1, 2, and 3 were extremely hard to rank, but at number 3 we have Conviction arc, and honestly, Conviction, it is almost perfect. Like compared to the Golden Age and the Millennium of the Empire, it has smallest amount of problems compared to all other Berserk arcs. Even the Falcon of the Millennium Empire arc and the Golden Age that are obviously higher in this list than Conviction, still have like some problems, pretty big actually, that I don't like, but Conviction is really almost perfect. I'll start with talking about Lost Children arc, and I don't see why so many anime adaptations of Berserk just like go past Lost Children arc, like it is something that is not really important, and I hate it because Lost Children arc is the first time we see Guts since the Black Swordsman in this like his bloodthirsty revenge form, you know, and simply like as I said, Black Swordsman arc had a lot of problem with the writing of the Guts, like as a character, and now that after Golden Age, this his Miura's writing improved significantly. you see this improved version of this version of Guts. And Lost Children, like, just it is much better. And Lost Children is still apostle hunting like Black Swordsman arc, but put in a whole different level. Like the characters in this, from Jill to Rosine, Guts, Puck, they're all simply great. Action in this is one of, like, fight with Guts and Rosine is one of the best fights in Berserk. The design of the creatures, this is first time in Berserk where I felt that every page truly became a picture. Like, Golden Age had a very great art style, but from the Conviction point on, every page was a picture. And I'll skip now to the rest of the Conviction after Lost Children arc. Here we get Farnese, Serpico, a bunch of new characters, and many of these characters later, like, are not as developed, and they kind of go in the shadow. For example, Azan, that is after Conviction, is not that interesting, or Isidro, that later just becomes annoying. But here all these characters have a purpose and they are interesting. And that's for me like one of the biggest things for that Conviction has. Like, so many characters, new characters added, and it is crazy good. Like, that whole thing with Heretics is so darkest place that the Berserk has ever went. And but my favorite thing about the Conviction is this was like the switching point for Guts. Like, from this point on, Guts became a different man, and seeing that development of him was one of the high points of the Berserk. And you may ask, like, why is Conviction then number 3? And the only answer I can give you, there is no Griffith. And like, that kind of sounds strange, but the Griffith for me is one of the driving forces of Berserk, and Conviction was basically devoid of him, so that's honestly only my reason why I don't like Conviction so much, but that can't even be said as the negative of this, for me, masterfully done arc. And with that, we go to number 3, and that is Golden Age arc. And I won't cover Golden Age like something like really crazy, because like Golden Age is for the most people the best arc of the Berserk. I'll just go fast through the things you already heard. It is the point where the Berserk gets like crazy good. The writing is top notch. You have the most interesting characters in Berserk: Casca, Guts, and Griffith, constantly interacting with each other. And this is the only, like, other than like the one scene in the Millennium of the Empire arc, like the hill scene, this is the only time you see them interact, and that's why this arc is so good. Like, first time you see the Guts as the character, and great character he is indeed, because like the scenes like on the fountain when Griffith is talking about what his friend is, or the bonfire of the dream scene, it is really what separates Berserk from other just like these bloody fantasies with nothing else to say. Like, and the Golden Age is the beginning of that. Like, Berserk after Golden Age became a much deeper story. Although, like, we hate Griffith obviously for what he did at the end of this arc, you see why he did the things he does, and you see why Guts is leaving Band of the Hawk. Everything is done in a such way where you can see everything that happens and completely understands it. Obviously, I have problems with Golden Age, and that's why it is not my number 1. The biggest complaints I have is how they treat the Band of the Hawk and the character of Casca. I feel that Band of the Hawk didn't do much in a sense of fighting. I would, for example, I liked if they all fight Veiled instead of just Guts fighting Veiled. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. And they feel like, many of them feel like I wanted to see more bonding with Guts in the Band of the Hawk, and not just like Corcus, Judo and Rickard and Pippin, but that's my complaint. And with the character of Casca, what I wanted to say, there are many scenes where Casca simply gets assaulted, and it kinda, because of that, her character seems weak sometimes, and that is not something that I like. I'm not saying that she should be on the level of Guts and Griffith, but I would like if Miura treated her differently in many scenes. And obviously the Eclipse is, it's Eclipse, it's great, it's terrifying, it is Eclipse. And at number 1 I have Falcon of the Millennium Empire arc. This arc for me is the best arc in all of Berserk, and the things that Miura pull off here for me are still some of the most impressive things that I ever saw somebody pull off in manga. Like, when I was reading this arc, every page like was something new to see. Millennium Empire, like the difference between it and the old previous arcs is simply the world building, because in this arc, the world simply explodes. You see a bunch of new places from many different perspectives, and although arc is great in that sense, there needs to be more, like, to make it my favorite arc, obviously. And the things that really made it for me are the Guts and Griffith, and the Guts in this arc, although like in Conviction it was the switch for Guts, he wanted to become a different man. Really, in this arc is his transformation to something else, and it does not go without its falls and rises. Because at the beginning of this arc, that scene when he assaults Casca, it is, you feel bad for Guts, you feel bad for Casca, but you see that there is still road for Guts to becoming like the man we all want him to become in this point, like the true knight, the true hero. It is great to see, but like that scene at the Hill of the Swords, like at the beginning of arc, that's my favorite scene of the all of Berserk. And it really shows us the all the way how we came to that point. It is the first time that we see Casca, Griffith, and Guts again at the same place. Interaction between Guts and Griffith, and the fight that Guts has with Zod. By the way, my favorite fight in all of the Berserk. And when he just refuses that rage, when he feels that Casca is near him, it is very emotional, and it really speaks about Miura's writing in this whole arc. Other in this arc that we get is transformation, obviously, of Farnese as well, like the great character development of her. We get to know Serpico more, and in this arc, Serpico still felt very significant to the story compared to the Fantasia arc, and like the significant fighter of the whole group. We get Shirked, and she's a really interesting character, but character-wise, not everything is good in this arc, and that is my only problem, honestly, with this arc. The characters like Isidro get simply annoying, and the characters like Pac or Zan that in this arc simply got irrelevant. And there is some addition of some other characters, like for example Farnese's brother, that later in Fantasia gets like really useless, but still, like in this arc he's useless too. So these are my problems with the Millennium Empire arc. But what also makes this arc for me is the art style, that just because Miura truly here goes to many different places, from the cities to the magical forests, and it is great feast for the eyes. But Millennium Empire arc truly has my favorite Berserk scenes, like the most badass Berserk scenes, like Guts riding Zod or Berserker armor, and like greatest emotional scenes like the Hill of the Swords, or that shot when the Berserker armor opens and the face of Guts when he looks at Casca. All this combination of great action moments and great emotional and character moments evolve this story to the different level than even than it was before, and it ends for me like with the best ending of any Berserk arc, like the whole Shiva Ganishka thing when he fights Griffith and the world transformation. It is epic, there is no other word to say it. And I hope that Berserk one day will go back to the greatness of this arc. Like at least, like, I hope that some arc will get as good as this, or maybe even better. So this was my Berserk video. I simply love Berserk and really wanted to talk about it. See you next time. Bye.